Hello number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and today we are checking out a channel that you have suggested to me. In other words, the channel History Buffs, which has 1.6 million subscribers, 122 videos, and if we read a little bit so we have an idea, a show dedicated solely to reviewing historical movies. Ever wondered how much a film is based on a true history? Oh my god. Story of my life, mate. Ever wondered how much a film is based on a true story? This is the place to find out. Well, that is wonderful. So what have they got? Chernobyl. I actually really enjoyed that show. We watched it with my wife. They've got Robin Hood. They've got The Outlaw King. Oh, I'd love to see what they have to say about that one. How long is it? 52 minutes. Goodness gracious. Great, good. Elizabeth, the Golden Age. They've got some nice stuff. But of course, we're going to check out the History Buff Gladiator II impressions. It is only a 4 minutes and 54 seconds. So rather than being a full production, this is a little bit of a first impression I think that they're giving us. And perhaps they will produce a full-on video. I'm sure they will, because they already have for, oh my gosh, History Buff Gladiator 9 years ago. That's another one I should totally check out. But without further ado, let's see what they have to say.
Hey guys, it's Nick Hodges here. Right now I should be working on one of my big reviews I have in the backlog, but I just got back from Gladiator II, and I had to get this off my chest. This is
I 100% understand the same thing.
by far one of the most historically inaccurate movies I have ever seen. I can't articulate to you how much I hate this movie.
Well, oh my god, his face. I totally understand you, mate. Literally, as a movie itself, it's not actually too bad. I have to say, I took the wife to the cinema, to the theater, and no, we had a good time when it comes... I mean, actually, she had a good time. Okay, let me rephrase that. She had a good time, and as a story, the music, the acting, the cinematography, yeah, it's a fun movie. But historically speaking, the movie's atrocious. So yeah, as long as when you go watch it, you keep that in mind, I think you have a wonderful time.
I honestly thought Ridley Scott couldn't sink any lower after Napoleon, but...
Yeah, that's my man. Already like this guy. You know, I love it when content creators can join forces and get together for a good cause, aka ruining Mr. Scott's name and work. Literally, the only good thing that man has created in his entire life is the xenomorph. And considering that's like a monstrous alien that with double mouths like this that bleeds acid, you know... Oh, but Metatron, why are you so salty against Mr. Scott? Oh, you wanna know why? Check out this video called This is Complete Nonsense from a year ago, and you will see. Spoiler alert, those are Napoleonic soldiers in the background. Thank you. Link in the description. After you watch that video, you will join the anti-Ridley Scott crusade.
But somehow he did. Now before I continue further, this is not a proper review of Gladiator II.
Well, yeah, 4 minutes. I mean, there is a lot to say, so that's fine.
Those are big commitments that take months to research, write and edit.
Tell me about it.
I will review Gladiator II, I can promise you that, but for now, this cathartic little video is meant to give you my initial impressions, or at least a warning.
Oh my gosh, this scene, I've got a...
This cathartic little video is meant to give you my initial impressions.
Yeah, this was mind-blowing. Like the guys here, this is dedicated to Maximus Decimus Meridius. Hallelujah. And you can't see it here, but at the top here, it's all written in English. It's in English. So why bother putting the V instead of the U? Oh my gosh, I'm such an ancient Roman if you're gonna write English on top of it. Ridley, you're a riddle.
Or at least a warning. If you're a history buff and that matters to you, do not waste your money on this rubbish. Wait for it to come out for free on streaming, and then maybe watch it drunk with your mates to roast
Hey, Macrinus.
it. This movie was clearly made by a director with no knowledge or respect for the history it's inspired by.
Thank you. This guy, go subscribe to this guy. He understands it. He understands me. Finally, this is my therapy. This is my therapy.
Like, for example, the movie is set in the year 200 AD, but it opens
I thought it was like 211 or something.
up with the Roman invasion of Numidia in Africa, even though
Free Numidia.
Numidia had already been conquered 250 years earlier.
Yeah, 105 BC is absolutely correct. 105 BC is when the last bastion of freedom in Numidia was taken and annexed by the ancient Roman forces. But somehow, here, that hasn't happened. Alternative universe, I suppose.
Or during the naval battle, you can see the Numidians use medieval trebuchets.
The trebuchet, my gosh, the trebuchet. I'm surprised how my wife hasn't strangled me during the movie. Or in fact, any random stranger. Well, the movie was empty, I'll be honest with you. There was just one more couple, and they were like a mile away. It felt like we were the owners of the theater anyways, because I wouldn't shut up every 5 minutes. It's impossible to watch a movie like this with me. She's a saint. My wife is a saint. The trebuchet, the trebuchet. Oh my gosh, may the gods have mercy on us.
A weapon that wouldn't exist for another 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Then you have these little comments and dialogue, like the two brother emperors, Caracalla and Geta,
Who weren't twins?
congratulating Petropascal for his conquest of Numidia, and tells him to move on to Persia and India. And I'm like, Persia? Don't you mean Parthia?
Parthia.
So not even the terminology is historically accurate.
No.
There's also a scene when the Numidian slaves...
I mean, the two brothers aren't historically accurate if you're really gonna go there, mate. So Caracalla was like a manly man. I gotta do it. I don't care. I have to do it. This is Caracalla, a manly, tough guy, man. You would disagree with this guy, it will slaughter your entire district. Anything is like, maybe someone in that city quarter, okay, murder everyone. This became this little spoiled brat. When it comes to Geta, I don't know. I mean, Historia Augusta does mention him to be a little extravagant when it comes to the clothing, but they also say that he was a sober man. Which, I mean, Historia Augusta, get your SHIT together, because it's either one or the other, I suppose. But maybe he was extravagant in the way he dressed, but he was very sober in the way he spoke. I've got a clue. I mean, Geta is okay, I guess. Geta is fine.
And Geta, congratulating Petropascal for his conquest of Numidia,
Congratulations.
and tells him to move on to Persia and India. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Persia? Don't you mean Parthia? So not even the terminology is historically accurate.
No.
There's also a scene when the Numidian slaves are supposedly shipped to
And the leather bracelets everywhere. Always leather bracelets to curse my life.
Ostia near Rome, and you can clearly tell from the geography and extras that they shot this in Morocco.
Oh, did
It's
they?
hilarious, because we leave Africa, and then the titles say Ostia, but it still looks like we're in Africa.
Oh, that's funny. I did not notice that. I gotta give him credit for it. Macrinus, the guy who used to be a slave of Marcus Aurelius, but then has his revenge. He never was a slave of mine. He never was a slave.
Then there's the dumb
Oh.
set pieces you've all seen in the trailers. Like in the Colosseum, there's a fight scene with the gladiator riding a rhinoceros, which has never happened in all of human history.
I have to correct you, I have to debunk you there, nothing personal. But if you count Warhammer Fantasy as part of human history in the sense that it's one of the achievements of as a species that we have created, then to be technical and a little pedantic, we do have skull crushers of corn. Which I mean, you know, 'cause sort of. So I guess in all of human history, I'm not sure if I can agree with you now. With that being said, what the skull crusher of corn is doing in the Amphitheatrum Flavium, I'm so sophisticated when I speak Latin, in the Principate, that is beyond me, of course.
They're not herd animals like camels, horses, or
Yeah.
elephants. They're solitary, territorial animals that are incredibly aggressive, unpredictable, and therefore unsuitable for domestication.
You know what's interesting? The fact that he's saying how a rhinoceros would be unpredictable, even ferocious, that's mentioned in the sources because Marshall actually does speak about a rhinoceros used in the arena during gladiatorial games, but he wasn't mounted. That's the fantasy part. It wasn't mounted. They were used, and he tells us that the rhinoceros was extremely ferocious. So it's kind of cool that we have that. But then, of course, Mr. Scott had to put a gladiator with leather bracelets on top of it because, yeah. Now, since we are talking about animals, Mr. History Buffs, did you see the mutated monkey? I mean, to give them credit, in 55 BC, we are told by Pliny that Pompey, or Pompeius, not Pompey, Pompeius actually did showcase monkeys that possibly were affected with rabies during his inauguration games. And it would have been baboons because they're described as being cynocephalous, so dog-headed monkeys, but still, yeah, mutated. You are mutated.
Now, the one thing I believed had potential from watching the trailers was knowing that for the first time in a Hollywood movie, we were going to see them flood the Colosseum to show a mock naval battle. something that the Romans allegedly did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You don't have to use allegedly with that one. The so-called naumachia is mentioned several times. We know that in the Republican period, they would perform them in specially dug basins that they would then fill with water. But in imperial times, they did those in several arenas. And we have mentions from both Cassius Dio and Suetonius that tell us that both emperors Titus and Diocletianus actually performed naumachia within the Colosseum. So we even have mentions in the historical sources about the naumachia happening in the Colosseum. So that was actually very nice to see. There were some problems. I want to see what you're going to say about it.
The movie is a mock reenactment of the Battle of Salome. So you have one ship with gladiators dressed like Greeks, and you have another filling in for the Persians.
Cool.
That was cool.
Yeah.
And watching the ships smashing each other's oars and ramming into one another would have been awesome. If it wasn't for the fact the Colosseum was swimming with sharks, which
I know, the sharks.
is so stupid, it's like Asylum Pictures made this movie. Sharks need to keep swimming in order to breathe. How the hell did the Romans catch them at sea, transport them, and keep them alive and healthy without using oxygenated watertight tanks? It's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely understand that. The respiratory system of the shark was, in fact, the first thing that I thought as well when I saw that scene. Basically, what he's saying is that a lot of sharks actually need to move in order to breathe. That's how they get the water, the oxygenated water within their gills. Is that the word in English? But then again, it depends on the species. Some sharks do use buccal pumping in order to breathe, so maybe if it was one of those. Still, it is silly that they put the sharks in there, also because, once again, they're not mentioned in the sources whatsoever. But the sharks were known and farmed, in fact, when it comes to fish farming, they were farmed outside the coasts near Rome, and that's something we know they did. So sharks did exist, and they wouldn't have been that far, but I still agree with you that it's kind of weird, because so that's kind of difficult to justify, at least from the nature of the historical sources. And just to give you the source for that, it's by reading Columella that we are told about the artificial basins dug in the coasts of Latium when it comes to fish farming for sharks.
I understand the need for spectacle in a movie, but maybe try something somewhat plausible. Why not use Nile crocodiles?
Absolutely, absolutely.
That would have made so much more sense. The Romans had access to them and actually did transport and use them in Roman games. But
he's correct. The sources for this, we are told that by Suetonius that Emperor Nero actually organized naumachia within salt water and that there were beasts swimming in it. We don't know what sort of beasts, but then again, in order to answer that, we could then utilize, for example, Pliny, who mentions the aquatic games organized by Marcus Aemilius Scaurus in 58 BC, and he tells us that they were using both crocodiles and hippos.
To them and actually did transport and use them in Roman games. But you know what really pissed me off the most?
Yeah, tell me.
There's a scene where our protagonist, our hero gladiator Lucius, is fighting the champion, loses and falls to the ground.
Yeah.
Then the champion holds back from his attack and looks to the emperor for the signal whether to spare
Yeah, this thing is not a thing.
him or kill him. Impressed by Lucius's bravery, the crowd implores Emperor Geta to spare him, so he gives a thumbs up.
Appreciate that he's pronouncing the Geta correctly.
But for some reason, due to his own ego or something, Lucius is angry about being granted mercy and sucker shanks the champion and chops his head off. This would have been outrageous in real life. The Romans prized honor and order in the games. Also, when the emperor signals mercy, it's not a suggestion, it's an
That's true. Once again, not like this, but it's true.
imperial command. By killing the champion, Lucius has openly defied the emperor, which is treason. So both the emperor and the crowd would have been calling for his immediate execution. But instead in Gladiator II, everyone cheers the bugger. Even the other gladiators. They all cheer his name when he returns from the arena, when in reality, they all would have given him the private pile treatment, at the least. Camaraderie and mutual respect were essential for survival in the gladiatorial world.
I absolutely agree with him. He has a fantastic point.
There is no way they would have put up with that. Strength and honor, more like cowardly and shameful. Anyway, I can go further, but I'm going to save the rest of my thoughts for a future length review. If you haven't seen it yet, I hope this gives you some pause or at least prepares you. I'm going to go back to working on my next review. As always, thanks for watching, History Buffs, and I'll see you again now.
Oh my gosh, look at the armor. I hate this. I mean, what is it? Look at these black, spiky suits of armor that are supposedly covered with soot. Are supposed to tell us that this is the Praetorian Guard. There is absolutely no reason to believe that the Praetorian Guard would have been wearing black stuff. In fact, the sort of, let me show you. The one thing that we usually use, which is called the relief of the Praetorians. Now, given we're not 100% sure that these are actually Praetorians, but it is possible that they were. Once we examine it, we see that yes, they are dressed in a very expensive manner. They are wearing Attic, so once again, very highly decorated Attic style helmets. They are wearing what appears to be muscolata, so that's a type of expensive armor that they could have given them. And then they are wearing calcae, so the more expensive boots as opposed to the caligae. So yeah, they were rich because, as we know, they were paid 6 times the amount of money that a regular legionary would be paid. So just give them something expensive, dressing them in that sort of a black nonsense. Oh my gosh.
Thanks for watching, History Buffs, and I'll see you again next time.
Cool. I liked it. Very, very cool. I'm actually very excited to watch his other thing. So on actually the very first Gladiator movie, it's a 22-minute review, so that's probably something that would end up being a much longer video on my side too. But as a first impression of History Buffs, which is basically what I did, I really liked him. I think I'm gonna enjoy watching more of these soon. Of course, if you noble ones are interested. In fact, if you have a favorite, don't put the links because otherwise your comment gets removed by the system, but do give me the title. If there is a specific movie review that you want me to check out that he did, 13th Warrior, that's very nice. History Buff Rome Season 2, that would be very cool to watch his opinion on. I'm gonna keep it to the ancient time, I think. Viking Season 4, gosh, I hated Season 4. Season 1 was so good, Season 2 as well. Braveheart, how does he not get demonetized with showing movie clips? Because usually I get copy claimed. I hope I don't get copy claimed now because I'm showing him. I'll have to figure out a way to avoid that. But anyways, really cool channel. Okay, number ones, thank you so much for watching, and hello to History Buff. I hope he enjoyed my first impression of his video, and hopefully we'll make more. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye. If you're enjoying this video so far, please take a moment to check out my Patreon page. With as little as a $5 support, you can help us ensure that we can continue to produce high quality and high researched content. And at the same time, you get access to polls, extra videos, unlisted streams, and much more. Thank you so much.